My hat! Alright, so now we're going to get started with this. So I'm going to remove the transmission, and then I'm also going to start removing the electronics, which, you know, I still find hilarious. So just be careful when you get something. Make sure you research first what you're getting. Again, I don't know how much the person that originally, well, I mean, my wife's cousin, I'm not sure how much he paid for it. I'm sure he got this for a deal. You know, maybe he got it for free fitty. I'm kidding. That's what I hear youngsters say nowadays. But in order to remove the transmission, you just unscrew. There's just 4 screws on that side, and I'd already unscrewed some of them, so I just left one in there so you can see. But anyway, that screw will drop the transmission, and then it's just going to be attached to the servos via the links. So here we go. And these here, if you mix them up, it's not a big deal. They are a mirror image of each other. You could even, oh no, you cannot flip them. But as long as you keep them like this, right, you will be fine. That is it. But yeah, here they are. So I'll place them this way. That's the front, that's the rear. And here we go. So the transmission is now just attached to this one. And since I'm going to be removing the servo, I'm just going to go ahead and remove this part here. This is the easiest. And okay, these are, oh wow, this is really old. I mean, when you get screws like this on the servo, it's the coarse thread or the self-threading. So I will have to replace this one with another screw because these servos, the new ones, do not use those. Now this, I don't really want to disconnect. Just going to take this off here. Actually, don't have to for what I'm doing. I'm trying to decide how much I want to disassemble. I'll remove it here. All right. So for this one, I'm thinking it's going to be a 1.5 millimeter driver. And it is a 1.5. So you just loosen that oppressor screw and that is it. Now I'm going to drive it over here. There are marks. And I'm going to have to adjust this anyway for the brake. But I just don't want to lose it, so I'll leave it there. And that can stay there. So here's the transmission. Transmission is out. And, oh my. All right, well, so let's see how these were. All right, so steering servo is over here on the back side, and that's how that gear goes. All right, this one up here was completely broken. I don't even know where this top piece is. So before I install it, oh, there it is. All right, so this looks like it was forward. So these two are forward and that one is back. Good, so should be able to work with this. I'm gonna remove the servos now. Fun stuff. And it looks like I'm missing some screws. So somebody already tried working on this. It looks like, which is fine. And oh, there we go. Have to remove the whole thing. Right, so this one here, this was the throttle. That servo there. This one is the one that engages the transmission forward reverse, and then this is steering. So this is channel 1. There's channel 1. And this one here is channel, wait, no, I made a mistake. This is channel 1. This is channel 3. And this one here I'm going to need, this goes to your battery. Now, Traxxas receivers, well, this one actually says B and then 1, 2, 3. But on the newer ones, on the TQ, for example, it'll say channel 1, channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. You go the first channel 1. That's where that is connected, and this will be recycled. Maybe I'll just keep it as a relic. Let's see. So, oh, there it is. Yeah, this was completely broken. That's all right though. And let's go ahead and remove this one right over here. Yeah, different screws. So this has been worked on before. I mean, not that it matters. We'll be adding screws. All right, so those pieces of plastic, I see they're attached here. Good, so I can remove this and not worry about them falling out. And there it is. So that's the steering servo. And this I am going to keep. That's going to stay because I will be using the same battery holder. Just takes 4 AA batteries and then it screws on here. That's the foam just to cushion any impact. This is where the receiver goes. The receiver, as you saw, is massive. The new receiver is tiny. So I'm actually going to be using the box off of a Slash, the receiver box, because this has foam and I'm not going to stick this onto foam. And it's, I'm just going to replace the box. It's easier. So that being said, I'm just going to use double stick tape for the other box. It will work, and then I'll have these 2 screws that I'll be able to use for the servos. Nope, no, I'm not. They're too short. I thought I was going to. So I will be needing to use other screws. That is alright. Servos generally come with some screws. And there it is. So I'm going to have to wipe this off with some alcohol. This I can now recycle. This was the original box, and I'm replacing that with this other one. So I just need a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Let me just get a clean piece of rag here from this, and I'll wipe it down. So I just need to tear a little piece off. And here we go, just good old rubbing alcohol. I'd like to make this smaller. Actually, I don't need such a large piece. So on camera, I'm just tearing this. That's all I'm doing. Was doing. There we go. And I'll use this, clean that off. Perfect. All right. And the alcohol is now dry, so I can seat the receiver box, but I'm not going to just yet. I'm going to get the servos. So the servos that I'm going to be using are these right over here, and I'm going to be using this Savox. This is going to be for my steering. So Savox for my steering, and the reason why is this one's 222.2 ounces per inch, or ounce inches, and it's a lot stronger than the stock one. The stock servos, for example, these top ones, I think those were 20 ounces per inch. And then I'm going to be using the Rage for the other channels, so throttle, brake, and then engaging the transmission. These are 125.2, so they should be stronger. And I do want something that's relatively strong for my throttle brake, not because of the throttle, because of the brake. That is the reason why. So I will take out both of these servos, and I'm going to deal with these first. And as I said, they generally come with screws, so here's some of the extra hardware. And I'm just going to use this, open up the bags, and just dump them in there. And a lot of this stuff I'm not going to need. I'm actually interested in screws. But I'm still going to dump everything out. Alright, so now we need to take a lot of these out, and luckily none of these, there I go. Alright, so I have a bunch of stuff all over the place now. We'll keep those there. And I'm going to save these. I generally don't use these. I already have what I need, but in this case, I think I'm going to save them. Just in case. I'm going to try to see if I can use some of these screws, although I'll be honest, probably not because they seem thinner. So these probably will not work. But we'll see. If I can make them work, I'll make them work. Now, Savox, so we'll go ahead and open this one as well. And this one, just in case you were wondering, this one's an SC0251MG. That's the model. So this is what I'm using for steering. Should be good enough. And let's see, screws on that one. Alright, these may actually work. Well, at least there's one here that's going to work for steering. Let me see if I can get that screw out. Oh, just dump everything out, that'll be easier. It may be too long, so I may have to still look in my parts bin. But we'll see. We'll see if it works. Alright. Alright. Maybe I should go with the steering servo first. Alright. Steering. Let's just see. Alright. This looks... Alright. So steering is probably there. That would make sense. I'm going to have to adjust the steering later, so at this point, it's not going to matter. Let's see what type of screw this is. That's the coarse one. Well, I can use that for holding a servo. Alright. Let's grab the steering servo and have to borrow the little cap here. Now, Traxxas vehicles generally come with a set of these little plastic ones, so if you happen to have another Traxxas vehicle, you can just take one off of that, and here you go. Alright, so I have my servo saver here, although this is a Metal Gear servo, so I'm not really worried. But I'm not going to replace the horn for this build, and that is why I'm doing this. So let's see if the screw that came here works. If not, I'm going to have to use a different one. Oh yes, this should work easily. Let me just put a little bit of thread lock. And that is it. And here we go. It should work. No, I'll just get a smaller one. 2mm driver right over here. Alright, good stuff. There we go. Alright. And I feel like I mounted this backwards. Alright, doesn't matter. I'll figure it out later. Oh, I see. This goes this way. That's why sometimes something felt strange. Looked strange, felt strange. There we go. Okay, and that's toward the back as it should be. I'm just gonna use some screws. We'll see how many screws I'm gonna end up needing. I really want to have 4 on each. Alright, here we go, one more to go, and then the steering servo is going to be set. So that's something else that you need to watch out for when you get something. Make sure the hardware is there. As you can see, it wasn't, so I ended up using 4 screws there. So now I'm gonna have to, I will have to use other screws for these other servos, which is fine, and those are not gonna work. Well, actually, maybe they will. Let me see. Although these are very small. No, they will not. All right, I'm gonna get these out of the way. Great. Now I need the other 2 servos. So the other 2 servos, let's see, both of them were away. Let's see. This wire actually needs to go in through here. So I'm going to have to take this screw out. So somebody had definitely done some work to this. I wonder if that's how the servo broke. Maybe they were trying to fix it. So this is going to mount in like this, and then there's a little gap in here. You have to lift this plastic. So I will actually loosen these 2 screws here, just so I can lift this enough to run the cable. So the cable has to go in that gap right there. So I'm just going to lift this, run the wire through there. Now that it's there, I can go ahead and drop the servo, and this is very, very close. This isn't going to work. Well, maybe we'll figure it out. Let me just mount the servo first. All right, so we have this. Let me put the screws in. I may actually have to. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to have to put some spacers there so that the servo horn doesn't hit this other servo. So I'm going to do the steering at the end. Fun. So the way the way the servo is, it's too deep, so it actually hits. It hits the horn. I'll need some spacers. Now you could get a short servo and that would work, but just going to go with spacers. For now, the important thing here is to get these things screwed in. So I'm just going to go here into all these extra screws that I have, and I'm just going to pick 4. I'm going to use these, and these are all 2mm. And this is why you end up, on these old ones, having to use so many drivers, because you end up changing screws. And I just put my finger on that clean area. Let's see where this, there we go. These may have been the wrong choice. I think they're too long. Yeah, they're fine. We're not going to go through all the way. So here we go. Continue. Right. Here we go. The wires are the thing I'm concerned about. So let me go ahead and use a screw here so that I can fix that mount. And all right, that's there. Good. That is tight as it should be. And that side is fine. Let's see, everything good. Just a little bit of slack. And let's do the other one. Now, I'm not sure if some of you have already replaced the servos on a Stampede, but if you have, what servos have you used? Sorry, I know I said Stampede, I meant Tmaxx. What servos have you used for the transmission? Also, have you eliminated the reverse in the transmission? It's something I'm still debating on whether or not I want to do. but I may end up doing it. It just depends. I need to open it up first and see what it looks like inside, if everything is still good or not. Because that reverse will sometimes get stuck, which is why people will eliminate it. Here we go. All right, almost finished with this one. Servo preferences. What servo preferences do you have? Keep in mind, these servos these Rage servos, they were a good price. That's why I bought them. They were, I don't know, $20, $25. Metal gear. Right, so they're pretty good. I actually don't need the 4th screw, but I'm still going to use it. I mean, have you tried Rage? What do you think of it? Servos are something that you can easily spend a lot of money on. I mean, you can spend $20, you can spend $50, spend $80, you can spend $140 on a servo as well. It just depends on the application. So that's one of the things that you have to think how much. Well, first, budget everything. What is your budget? And then after that, where are you going to spend that money? And sometimes it's a good idea to spend a little more on servos. Sometimes you don't really need it. You're better off spending that money on something else. But keep that in mind. Let's see, so these need to be just a little tighter. I don't want to over tighten because then you can damage the servo. Especially here, I mean, should really be using washers or different type of servo. And now that I realized it, there were these little brass caps that I could have used. Let me see if a screw fits through them. Nope, no, they're too small. Right, so I could not use them. All right, so that's that one. And now we just need to mount this other one. This one, if I recall, is this way as well. So I'm just going to run the cable through here for now. And I do have to remove this one all the way. I guess the other one was just really worn out. That's why I was able to take it out from there. So here we go. I'm just going to place this here, and I'm going to reuse, well, do I really want to reuse those? I'll go ahead and reuse them. It's the top, it'll make it easier, and then for the steering servo, I'll just use some slightly longer new screws. But here we go, there's another one. And this is an important servo up here because this one is your throttle and brake. So make sure that you have all 4 screws there, and you will also want to make sure that your servo doesn't slide back and forth, because if it does, keep in mind that's going to be some slack when it comes to brake and throttle. So those are things that you need to think about when you're installing servos or when you're working on your RCs. And this is almost finished. All right. There we go. So we have our 2 new servos here. I think the wire I may have to run this in through here, but I will find out as soon as I put the receiver box, which will be soon. You know what? No, I'm gonna run it now. This looks good. Looks good, clean, perfect. Now we need steering. Now, the only thing about steering is, this is where I didn't really pay attention. If the horn, which direction it went. So let me just place it here. I'm just trying to see if it will hit. See, it won't hit if it goes this way, but I don't think the steering went that way. Let's see, I have the front end right here. So I'm just mocking it up. There's something else that you can do if you forget. Let's see, where is the steering? There it is. So steering is there, so the horn definitely goes on the inside. So it has to be going over here, which is normal. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to go out, but I figured I'd check. So the problem that I'm going to have here is that this servo horn is going to be rubbing, barely rubbing on the back side of the servo. So this here, there's a nut there, and it's going to be rubbing. And I do not want to remove that nut. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use just something, anything really. Let's see if I have washers. Right, I have these little rubber pieces. Well, oh, here we go. There's some there. Well, let me see what the best option is, because I am going to have to lift this off just a smidge so that this doesn't rub. And it's something very small that it'll manage to mark the plastic after a while. I just don't want to stress the servo, because if you apply too much stress at the servo or to the servo, it's not going to work properly, or you could wear it out and damage it prematurely. So let me get those parts real quick. There. Let's see. Those are screws. Right. Different box. Here we go. So I found these little round. They look like washers. So I found those. That's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to be using different size screws. So here, let's see. I think this would be best size to go with. I'm going to try it out and see if this one works. That would be a very good size. Now I could use this other size. I have 4 of them. And here we go. Alright, so I'm just going to get it started, and I'm going to grab the next one. I'm just going to slide it underneath, and then I'm going to put the screw in there. So definitely get some washers if you don't have spare parts, shims, or something like this. Because this way I can drop the servo. I know I kept talking about lifting the servo, but since this is the belly, I'm actually dropping the servo just a small amount. Here we go. So now, oops, sliding too far. Well, guess what? You're going to be this one now. There we go. And once this one is in here, so the steering servo, that's another important servo. Make sure you use all 4. Don't use 2. Especially on something this size and this weight. If it were something much smaller, much lighter, you could get away with 2, I'm sure. But something like this, I do not recommend it. You're looking into damaging the servo case, especially because these are plastic. But here we go. So now I'm going to start driving them, and I do like the way it seats. Here we go. And these screws are threading on nicely. I was a little concerned though, because the difference in the threads, as I was mentioning, but these are threading in nicely. So I'm not concerned about these not threading. So you can use your regular screws, fine thread screws, to go through here. I think maybe they use the other ones because it's faster to thread. That's the only thing I can think about. But here we go. So now I need to mount the receiver box. I also need to get this for the tune pipe. And I'm going to have an extra screw. Well, that can go over there. I'm not going to use that. Here we go. So let's see, this had the alcohol. I'm just going to flip it. There's still some alcohol there. All right. So you can kind of see where I apply it. Here we go. So now, I'm going to go ahead and install the receiver box. The receiver box, now I have 2 options. I can install it this way, and then have all the wires go through here. So it'll just be all the way to the edge over here. Or I can install it this way, and have the wires coming through here. I want to keep the wires away from there, but at the same time, I do not want the wires on the outside, because if this thing takes a hit on the outside, those wires are going to take the hit as well. So I'm going to be forced to install this receiver box this way, which is fine. It'll work. So I'm just using a piece of double stick tape that I had already applied, and all I'm doing is placing it right here. Let's see, so I'm trying to follow the line on the chassis, and all right, so there I'd be able to unscrew that. Perfect. So it's not in the way of the tune pipe either. All right, that works. So now I just need to keep track of which is which. Here we go. So this one here, this is the steering servo. But at this point, I think it's best if I actually go into the transmission before I wire everything, just so I see where the transmission fits or falls, and then I can see how to run the wires properly. So that being said, for now, I'm just going to say goodbye to these, and I'll see you on the next one where I take apart that transmission. Thank you for watching.